We all love a perfect plan, right? One that looks amazing on paper. But what happens when reality hits? Today, we're going to dive into a super powerful way to stress test your strategy before it gets a dose of the real world. Let's jump in.
So, let me ask you this. Is the most profitable choice always the right choice? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Just chase the biggest number. But what if it's a huge one-time decision, one where a big loss could be catastrophic? Suddenly the answer isn't so simple. Okay, so here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll talk about the danger of a perfect plan. Then we'll get into how to stress test your decisions. We've got a cool case study to look at, we'll find that all-important tipping point, and then we'll see how your personal risk profile plays a role. And to finish it off, we'll tie it all together in a smart decision loop.
All right, let's kick things off by looking at how people usually make big decisions and maybe uncover some of the hidden flaws in a plan that seems flawless. So, a really common tool here is something called expected monetary value, or EMV for short. And look, it's great for decisions you make over and over where the stakes aren't, well, end-of-the-world high. You basically just calculate the average financial outcome for every option and pick the winner. So in our case study about a company called Latin Yugos, the EMV said, hey, launch the new juice. It's worth about $165,400. Seems pretty straightforward, right?
Well, here's the catch. And trust me, it's a big one. The whole idea of EMV rests on this one huge assumption, that you are totally, completely neutral to risk. It's like saying you don't care if the roller coaster has a massive, terrifying drop, as long as you end up in the right place on average. But what if that drop could wreck the whole company?
I mean, let's be real for a second. Are you neutral when everything's on the line? Probably not. Most leaders are what we call risk-averse. They'd rather take a smaller, guaranteed win than go for a slightly bigger average that also comes with a chance of total disaster. And that's exactly where the simple EMV model starts the breakdown.
Okay, so if just picking the highest number isn't the whole story, how do we actually factor in risk? Well, that brings us to the main event, a really powerful tool for playing what if with your biggest decisions.
And that tool is called sensitivity analysis. It's all about asking one simple question. How sensitive is my decision to small changes in things I can't control? Or, to put it another way, how fragile is my perfect plan? It's basically a way to see how much your strategy can bend before it breaks.
And the whole point of doing this is to find what's called a break-even point. Think of it as the tipping point. It's the exact moment, the exact number, where a change in one factor would make you switch from plan A to plan B.
You know, this might sound a bit abstract, so let's make it super concrete. We're going to go back to that company, Latin Yugos, because they're facing a really big, uncertain decision.
Okay, here's the situation. They have two choices. Option 1 is risky, launch a brand new, exciting cranberry juice. Option 2 is the safe bet, just produce a private label juice for a supermarket. That's a guaranteed win, but a much smaller one. And the big wild card in all this? It's whether or not they can get their dream ad agency on board.
So, what do? Well, they need to find that tipping point we were just talking about. Let's actually walk through how the math works.
And you know what? The process is actually pretty simple. It's just 2 steps. First, you take that big unknown, the chance of getting the good ad agency, and you just call it P. Then you create an equation where you set the financial value of the risky option equal to the financial value of the safe option.
And here's what that looks like. On one side of the equation, you've got the value of launching the new juice, and that number depends on P, our probability. On the other side, you have the safe bet, a nice fixed value of 155 grand. All we're doing is solving for P to see at what point those two options become exactly the same.
And when you do the math, you get this. One single, incredibly important number, 22.72%. That right there is the magic number. That's the tipping point.
So what on earth does that number mean?
It's actually pretty simple. It means that as long as the company thinks they have a better than 22.72% chance of getting that top ad agency, launching the new juice is the right call. Right now, they think their chances are around 70%, so they're in the clear. They've got a massive safety cushion. But if some bad news came in and that probability dropped below 22.72%, they'd know instantly it's time to pivot to the safer plan.
But look, this isn't just about the numbers. The fact that you'd even do this kind of analysis says a lot about you as a leader. And that gets us to a bigger idea. What's your personal risk profile?
Think about it. If you're the kind of person who wants to run a sensitivity analysis, it probably means you're pretty risk-averse.
Your main goal isn't just to chase the biggest possible payday. It's about protecting what you have, making sure the business is still around tomorrow. You want to know where the edges of the cliff are before you get too close.
Yeah, we can actually break this down into 3 types of leaders. You've got your risk-neutral person who just looks at the highest average number and goes for it. Then you have the risk-averse leader, the one we've been talking about, who uses tools like this to protect the company. And finally, you have the risk seeker. This is the person who loves uncertainty and is always hunting for that huge, game-changing return.
All right, let's bring this all home. We can actually wrap up this whole process into one simple, powerful loop that takes you from thinking to doing. This flowchart really says it all. You start with your options, you think about the risks, and you make a call. But then, and this is the important part, you hit a checkpoint right in the middle, the sensitivity analysis. If the test says yes, your decision is solid, you're good to go. But if it shows your plan is fragile, it basically says hold on and sends you back to the drawing board to rethink things before you commit.
So that leaves us with one last thing to think about. Sensitivity analysis isn't really just a math problem. It's a strategic question that you should be asking yourself all the time. Your numbers are telling you one thing, right? The real question is, what would it take to make you change your mind? Knowing the answer to that? Well, that's the secret to making truly smart, resilient decisions.